Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email. It's all right there. Also Newsmax TV. It is the Joe Pag Show. Glad to have you along for the ride. Really glad to have back my good friend Andy Pollack. He, of course, the father of Meadow, who was murdered at MSD High School in Parkland, Florida, approaching a year ago now. It's about 11 months ago. Andy, I appreciate you taking the time, man. I know how busy you've been. You good?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, Joe. You know, doing a lot of traveling throughout the state. You know, just trying to make sure our kids are safe and our teachers. I'm doing what I could do to honor my daughter.
You've done amazing work, and I know that you're making her proud. There's so much that's changed since we talked, and we talked like a month ago. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. DeSantis is now the governor. Good. We wanted him. We pushed for him. He has made a move on Scott Israel. Can we call him the former sheriff now? Because the people are reporting that he's been suspended, but he's already been replaced, right?
Yeah, he's been replaced, and I think it goes, if he wants, he goes through the Senate, where the Senate isn't going to have anything to do with this guy, you know, how incompetent he is and how arrogant. Right. I don't think he stands any chance with the Senate in Florida.
Well, I mean, the way that the officers or the sheriff's deputies were responding had to be speed of the leader. That had to come down from him. His leadership sucked. The SRO there it was an absolute joke, who was a deputy under Scott Israel. And then Israel's response and his reaction afterwards, as you said, it was arrogant. It was narcissistic. It was weird. And this guy really proved that he probably should never have had the job from the beginning. You worked hard on that from the past whole 11 months. I think you would have worked with him had he shown a little bit of compassion, but the guy didn't do any of that. Did you really think that you would get to the place to where he no longer has the job?
Well, it started months ago when I got behind Governor DeSantis in the campaign. You know, he ran on accountability, and when I heard him speak at the Lincoln Day dinner in Fort Lauderdale, that's what he talked about, and that's why I got behind Ron. You know, if Ron doesn't win that election and we didn't all get behind him, this doesn't happen. There's no accountability in Broward. Gillum would have had a parade with Sheriff Israel down the middle of Fort Lauderdale. They would have had a parade together.
And Runcie would have been on the float.
Yeah, Runcie would have been on the front waving his promise program paraphernalia.
So Israel's gone. Scott Peterson is gone. He tried to get that lawsuit thrown out. That didn't work, so you still have the wrongful death lawsuit against him. Who was the other guy, Medina? He tried to get that thrown out as well. Now, what was his position at the school, Andy? Fill us in.
So, first of all, we had that hearing yesterday. I had to miss it. My mom went. It was great. My mom showed up.
Good.
And my wife was there at the hearing. And Medina is that monitor that sexually harassed the girls a year before. One was my daughter. And it's interesting because Craig Nichols, who went against the Professional Standards Committee that recommended Andrew Medina be fired, Craig Nichols, who's Runcie's HR guy, overruled that and just gave Medina a 3-day suspension. So he resigned now, Joe. Nichols resigned. And Medina's was yesterday. But not only was it Peterson, Joe, at the school, it was about 8 deputies who failed that day, and it boils down to Sheriff Israel's protocol that he changed that a lot of people don't know about. In Broward County, Sheriff Israel changed the protocol from the deputy may go in. Every other probably department in the country, it says shall.
Yeah.
So Sheriff Israel changed it to may, which his deputies then could have just been following his policy by not going in the building that day and saving those kids. So it was his policy that failed those children that day.
It's Andy Pollack, lost his daughter Meadow at MSD High School. He's been working as hard as anybody I've ever seen to right this wrong and bring justice. I know that you're honoring your daughter's memory and the memory of the other 16 who died that day. What's interesting is, and I'm very familiar with Coral Springs, Florida. I had never heard of Parkland before this, and I actually did a lot of work in Coral Springs. It's such a small place, Parkland. But the Coral Springs officers, Andy, didn't they show up and do the right thing? That was the difference from deputy sheriff to police, was so strange to me.
I didn't really go through everything until we saw all them MSP reports that came out. But they went in that building, Joe, and they ran past these Broward sheriff deputies. And a lot of them I'm friendly with them. We became personal friends, and they're affected to this day. One guy that I'm friends with, the sergeant, ended up retiring because it it just affected him so much looking in that building. And he's on the road with his kids in an RV traveling. God bless him. Some other deputies that went through the building that I'm friends with, they're sick to their stomachs about this, what they witnessed when they pulled up on that building.
It's Andrew Pollack. Of course, he lost his daughter, Meadow, but he's been active, working so hard to fix it. Hashtag fix it. Use that every time that you tweet anything about school safety. You're on this board. What is this board called that you're on now?
I'm on the Board of Education for the state of Florida.
Oh, you're actually on the Board of Education. I thought you were on the safety board of some sort. It's actually the Board of Education.
I'm on the Board of Education. Governor Scott, now Senator Scott, appointed me about a week ago, and Ron had to approve it, the governor.
Yeah.
So he approved it. And I'm looking forward to working with everyone on that board. We had our first meeting yesterday, a good bunch of people. And I'm going to bring to this board safety. You know, what good is education if your kid doesn't come home at the end of the day? Like, who cares about the grade at the school if he doesn't come home? So school safety, I take it very important. It's very important to me. And I'm going to be able to look at these recommendations that came out recently from MSD, and also the president just had a commission come out with recommendations. I want to see how we can implement them across the state and make our schools safer.
Andy, have you figured out in your most private moments what exactly the opposing side is up to? How can anybody argue that our kids should come home after they go to school? How can anybody argue that it shouldn't have happened last year and it was absolutely avoidable? There are 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 different levels that this guy got past that he never should have gotten past. Have you ever figured it out to where you say, well, at least I understand where they're coming from, because I can't get it?
Joe, if you could figure it out, I don't get it either, Joe, because I'm fighting. Like, from the get-go, I said, look, let's put the gun debate aside, okay? We could all agree on that we want our kids safe at the school. You know, we want the single entry points. We want the properly trained guards at the school. Yeah. We want the mental health care. All these things we want, to make our kids safe. And there's people out there that are wired so differently than us, they can't control themselves. They have to make it a gun control debate. And I don't want to go there because they're obstructionists. You know, the Pelosi's, the Schumers, other people on the left. When they bring the gun debate in it, they're obstructing keeping our kids safe, and it pisses me the hell off. Yeah,
and I don't blame you. When you were sitting next to the president and you were right to his right hand, how serious is he about doing something about this promise program that promises nothing except that our kids aren't safe?
Joe, he did the greatest thing that anyone could ever do that the mainstream media didn't cover, okay? He actually rescinded those Obama-era policies that create an unsafe environment for our children and our teachers, but the media didn't cover it.
Nobody covered
that. But I know, and it's so important to me that now there's going to be no pressures on schools out there to participate in these programs. So he put an end to it, and I thanked him from the bottom of my heart, and so did all the other families that lost kids in Parkland.
Robert Runcie gets to continue as the superintendent because the school board there remained left and remained stupid, to be honest with you. What else can you do? Can anything else be done about a guy who was celebrating the Promise program after this massacre happened?
Joe, the governor said it really good in his inauguration speech. He called it a social experiment, what they brought to Broward, because it started in Broward. You know the whole story from Arnie Duncan, the education secretary. So Runcie brought that social experiment, the governor calls it, and that experiment got my daughter killed, what he brought here to Broward, and the other victims. So we're going to put an end to it. The governor knows what's going on with it. The commissioner, the education commissioner of the state of Florida knows about it. And we're going to see what we could do at a local level. But these local governments, like the school board, they just control everything. It's really hard. It's like their own little country that they have in Broward. But I'm going to work. I'm working little by little. I'm chipping away, at the sheriff. We took the sheriff out. And little by little, I'm working different avenues to help make the kids and teachers safer at Broward, because we got a few bureaucrats that are in charge that don't see it, that don't think like-minded like we do. They're wired differently.
At one point, and it's Andrew Pollack lost his daughter Meadow at Parkland, in Parkland, Florida, at MSD High School. At one point, you were going to pack it up and leave the state and just go and take a breath. You're in the middle of this, man. You are the guy with the gloves on. You're in the fight. And I'm glad that you're still on board in Florida. Florida's such an important state, and the rest of the country, obviously, I think will follow suit once we see the safety measures that are put in place. Are you dedicated to stay right where you are? You're on the school board now. You're working hand in hand with the governor, with the new senator. What's the plan? Will we see you for years to come fighting this fight?
Yeah, Joe. My biggest fight right now is to put an end to that social experiment that Robert Runcie brought to Broward County, because it creates an unsafe environment for every kid and teacher in the country. You know, we're losing teachers left and right. It's not just because of pay, Joe. It's also because of the environment that of being not safe in the classrooms with no respect. The police, they don't have to respect the police officers. They don't respect the teachers. Right. And it all started here in Broward. So I'm on a mission for kids like me and you have. They should have more rights than these kids that are these at-risk, dysfunctional criminals that go to school. You know, I'm not saying let's not take care of them. Right. There's a certain place for them. You know, we want to do the right thing for these kids, but we need to have an alternative plan than just not holding them accountable. There needs to be somewhat of a medium where we could help these kids and not sacrifice our kids that just want to go there and learn, and the teachers that want to teach. So well said and so smart, Andy. Go and follow him at Andrew Pollack FL on Twitter. Retweet and like everything that he tweets out. Put in hashtag #FixIt. Also follow his son, Hunter Pollack. I think it's Pollack Hunter, I think is what his name is on Twitter. But go and follow these guys because they're not playing around. They're in this to make sure your kid goes to school, gets a great education, becomes a productive American that enjoys this life of liberty and freedom, and they don't face, the barrel of a gun or a knife or a bad guy while on campus. Andy, I appreciate everything you do, man. I'm honored to have you as a friend, and keep up the hard work. Hey, Joe, I'm always here. And you know what? You've been there from the beginning with me, and we're going to keep fighting to make these schools safe for these kids and the teachers, man. We're going to get away from those policies, that social experiment, and we're going to create a better environment for every kid in the whole country.
And I 100% believe you. Andy, thanks a million, my friend. We'll talk soon.